Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
The Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness presents Money Matters with your host, Christopher Hensley.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters on KPFT Houston. The time is now 11 a.m. Central, and I've got a great show lined up for you today. In today's world of instant news and social media, businesses, leaders, and influencers must find a way to differentiate themselves from all of their competition and engage people in their missions. They need to rise above all the noise. They can do this by defining their success secrets or magic key. Reed and Lechter followed the proven path of Napoleon Hill and sought out multimillionaires and asked them to share the magic keys to their success and legacy. Our guest today is Sharon Lechter, and she is the co-author of the newest book, Success and Something Greater, from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. We all know Napoleon Hill is the author of Think and Grow Rich, and this is another one from the Think and Grow Rich Napoleon Hill Foundation. So please stay tuned. Keep listening. Sharon will be joining us very, very shortly to do kind of a deep dive into this new book that just came out. But if you are a longtime listener, you know that we always reserve just the first few moments of the show to tell you a little bit about what we do here in the Gulf Coast and the Houston area when it comes to financial literacy. We are now in September of 2019, so it's a little early for me to start talking about Houston Money Week 2020, but in reality, it's not going to be that far at all. We are already ramping up. In fact, the leadership team met this week to start planning and getting ramped up for Houston Money Week. Now, Houston Money Week is an initiative, a citywide initiative that involves nonprofits, for-profits. We've got banks involved. We've got the local universities. We've got even the middle schools. Each and every year in April, what's known as National Financial Literacy Month. This is the local Houston representation of National Financial Literacy Month called Houston Money Week. And when we started over 11 years, it used to be just a week-long event, but we have so many different partner organizations, either nonprofits or community organizations involved, that it has gone way more than a week long. So it's pretty much we take over the month of April, and we offer free financial literacy workshops, seminars, and classes to anybody who needs the classes or help or wants the information. And there's a ton of different topics. As a financial advisor, I might go out and talk about investments. We might talk about credit, but other partners might help you prepare your taxes. Our nonprofit group participates in something called the VITA Act, and the VITA Act is for low to moderate income. So if you make under a certain amount, you can actually reach out to one of these nonprofit partners, and they can help you in tax preparation. So that is just one example of the different things that we do. I always like to point people to the website HoustonMoneyWeek.org. This is a dynamic website that is updated with all of the different events. So where we have events that take place in April, all of our partners year-round do financial literacy, so there's always going to be something going on in there, and you can actually filter it either by the topic that you're interested in learning more about. So let's say you have a kid in college and you want to learn about college planning. You can take a look at what topics are available for that. Or if you're looking for something geographically located near you, you could just put your zip code in there and it's going to show you the closest Houston Money Week partner, and if there is any workshops that are available to you. With that, let's go ahead and get our guest Sharon on the line, because I want to maximize the amount of time that we have with Sharon. Sharon, are you there?
I am here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm excited.
Well, I kind of start the show the same way. I'll share your bio with listeners so that they can get to know you. And I think everybody was excited because you've got the new book, Success and Something Greater. But when I look back at the books that you've written before, we probably already know you. So I'm going to introduce you and let people know that you are a New York Times best-selling author, one of the world's premier experts for financial literacy and entrepreneurial success. You have authored Think and Grow Rich for Women. You are the co-author of one of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. Actually, the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you were co-author on that. And your newest release that we're going to kind of do a deep dive in today is Success and Something Greater.
Yes, it is, and I'm very excited about it. It's just literally coming out this month. So
awesome.
It really has been a journey, and as you said at the very beginning, everybody's definition of success is different. And in today's world, when there's so much competition, so many businesses, so much noise, you do have to find that one thing that's going to set you apart and allow you to rise above the noise and the crowd so that people will see what's different about you. What is your secret sauce, your magic key? And so we made the decision we were going to talk to people about their success stories, and every one of them is unique. Success means different things to different people. Some people think it's dollars in the bank. Some people think it's free time. Other people think it's contribution. And so that's the idea behind Success and Something Greater, is that you're going to read the stories of close to 20 people about how they found their uniqueness, their ability to create that success.
So how did you get started? Why was this book written, Success and Something Greater? What was the main motivator to get this book out?
Well, as you mentioned, Rich Dad, I actually own the company and did 15 books with Robert Kiyosaki. We were partners for 10 years. And when I left the Rich Dad organization, the Napoleon Hill Foundation asked me to step in and help reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill during the financial crisis in 2008. So my first book with them was 3 Feet from Gold, and it was about people that are success who survived those downturns, how they persevered, how they got through the rough times. And so this is like my 10th anniversary, fourth book with the foundation. And I said, let's highlight success stories on really what was your unique skill, what was that magic key, what was that success, and really emphasize that every success story is different, and somebody will read Success and Something Greater, and they'll read one story, and they go, well, that doesn't apply to me. But the next one, they go, wow, if they can do it, so can I. And so it just expands your mind to the possibilities. In today's world, we need to put ourselves in the place of highest potential. And that is when you recognize ideas on how to step out of your comfort zone and do something just a little different.
I love that. Place of highest potential. And anytime we get challenged to get outside of our comfort zone, that's new space and new territory for us. When you were putting this book together, what was something that surprised you as you were doing the research or the writing? What did you find that surprised you?
Well, some of the stories, 4 of the people that are in the book are actually very good friends of mine, so I've known them for many, many years. And actually highlighting their history and their track record, I learned all kinds of new things about them. And so it's like you think you know somebody, and then until you actually really do a deep dive and that connect heart to heart to understand their history and their story. And one of the guys that that is in the book is Fred Wagenhals, and he actually had the patent for the ski-mobile, and he sold it for $75,000. And we said, well, gosh, that's $1 billion industry. Don't you regret having sold that? And he says, no. Sometimes you have to make one deal to get to the next deal. At that point in my life, I was about to lose my house. I couldn't pay my employees. And so by selling that patent, he was able to catch up, keep his house, pay his employees, and he went on to sell Action Performance at one of the next companies he did for, several $100 million. And so the concept is, always be looking where you're going. right? Bob Bondurant is a dear friend of mine. I highlight him. He's a famous NASCAR driver, and he said, know the track. He's successful as he was. He would always go early and drive the track before the race. And he said, always have your eye on where you want to end up. Know where you're going. So every one of these individuals has their commitment to success, and they share that. And when you have that vision and that commitment to success, because we do all get off track at times, but then you can recalibrate and get back on focus to what you want to accomplish.
You mentioned rising above the noise in the book. What were some of the things that you might suggest to listeners when it comes to trying to rise above the noise?
Well, every successful business does one of two things. It solves a problem or serves a need. And so every morning I get up and I remind myself what problem I'm solving, what need I'm serving. And that allows you to step outside your own psyche and say, okay, this is the greater good. This is what I'm doing. And that gives you the inspiration to get up and go in the morning. It gives you the ability to get through the rough times. And it also allows you to focus on what, is this issue, the noise, that shiny object, is this going to help me accomplish that mission, or is it just going to divert my attention? And it helps you assess what it is you're doing. And so to rise above the noise is to remind yourself the greater good, that's something greater, success and something greater.
I love that. You said quite a bit there, and waking up and answering those questions, what problem am I solving, and what need does it serve? Let's talk a little bit about the magic key. You talk about their magic key. What exactly does that mean?
Well, everyone has a unique focus, and as I shared, Fred said, sometimes you have to do a deal to get to the next deal. Rita Davenport, who became the president of Arbonne and took it to $1 billion industry, said, invest in your people, focus on your people. And, that is absolutely who she is. And so what defines you, that magic key, that success principle, what is it that you create and that you look for that is really your signature in creating success? One of the other folks at John Ashworth, who created an entire new golf line of golfwear, he found the gap. He found something. And so he focuses on what can I do to fill the gap. And that's the value of this book, because it talks about so many different aspects of success. But each one is a trigger. It's a trigger to say, hey, am I focusing on that? Is this something that I could do differently in my business? Maybe I should, take this wisdom and apply it in my life and in my business.
Were there any common, what I would call, roadblocks to the people that you interviewed that reached or got to this level of success? Were there any common roadblocks that our listeners should be on the lookout for? Well,
I have interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of successful people, and I can I can't even think of one truly highly successful person who has not had roadblocks and adversities. We all have something that stops us in our track, and we all have a thought process of something that's going to work in our business, and then, oops, we find out that it's not going to work. And the issue is recognizing it and turning that adversity or that roadblock into an opportunity, turning it into a lesson, and learn from it and know that no longer, now you've eliminated a bad path so you can choose a better path. And that learning opportunity helps you take a next step towards success. Every roadblock is an opportunity. And if you focus on that and you say, okay, got past that, now next. Just continue focusing on the future and what you want to accomplish, and you'll be able to recalibrate and get back on track.
One of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning is that we're on an anniversary. When you came on board with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, we had just, it sounds like it was right about 2008, 2009 when we had a market crash. And so that's an interesting time to switch gears and to start, and I think people needed that. But one of the, people talk about maybe there's a recession coming in the future. Do you have any tips to help people recession-proof themselves for any financial strategies?
Well, absolutely. And again, if you have a business that's solving a problem and serving a need, which we have a lot of problems today and a lot of needs, that's the best recession-proof you can do because people need that. You hear personal financial planners talk about asset allocation. Well, they're basically talking about across various stock categories and paper aspects, bonds, mutual funds. When I talk about asset allocation, I said, asset allocation between real estate properties, paper assets, businesses, intellectual property, all of those things. And so when a recession hits, all right, if you have rental properties that you have that are B and C category, you are providing a need. All right, you're solving a problem for people who are losing their home. They need somewhere to live. And so having that kind of rental real estate, not the A-list properties, but B and C, then that helps you recession-proof your portfolio because those are going to be in demand. Understanding that there will be a mass movement into dividend-paying blue chip. Maybe that's something you want to look at now. Analyze your portfolio, analyze your own personal risk tolerance, and be more vigilant in watching what you're doing with your funds. Know that you have enough cash on hand to survive 6 months, right? And if you are close to retirement, that 6 months may need to be closer to 3 years because that's the typical cycle in a recession. And so all of those things is just being aware of your portfolio and paying attention to what's happening in the market.
I love that. I'm just going to repeat some of the things you just mentioned there because they were such great strategies and keys to getting prepared in case something does happen. Not having all your eggs in one basket. You talked about asset allocation, but not just the traditional asset classes, even real estate and intellectual property rights and things like that people might not have thought about. You talked about having that cash cushion or that emergency savings of 6 months, or even when we look at a recession, if it takes 3 years, having a safety net of savings to fall back onto if we need to. For people who are just tuning in, we're talking with Sharon Lechter. She is the author of the new book, Success and Something Greater. Sharon, one of the things you've talked about before is people's fear of money, which sounds kind of odd, but tell us what that is and how we can overcome it.
Well, I would say the vast majority of people listening to this and in America are fearful of money. If you go back to when you were a child, what did your parents say about money? They said, we can't afford it, money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day. All of those things have one thing in common. They're negative. So we grow up hearing money negative, money negative, money negative. No wonder we get fearful of never having enough money, or when we actually have some success, we're afraid of losing it because it's been subconsciously programmed in our brain. And once you recognize that, you can kind of release it and say, wait a minute, I don't believe in scarcity. I believe that we have opportunities. We can start a side business. We can start investing in assets. The one thing that rich people all around the globe, no matter where they live, what their language they speak, they have one thing in common. They own income-producing assets. And that's what we're not teaching our kids in school. We are still teaching them to be employees exchanging your time for money, which is, there's no problem doing that. It's not what you do for your paycheck that counts. It's what you do with your paycheck, investing that, and understanding that the earlier you start buying, building, or creating income-producing assets, the sooner I'm financially free.
I love that. You just said it's not what you do with your. One more time. It's not what you do.
It's not what you do for your paycheck.
Yes.
It's what you do with your paycheck that determines your financial stability.
And I love that, and it's getting people in that mode to start looking for income-producing assets at an early age, getting that on their radar much sooner than what's being taught in the classes in the schools already. Tell us a little bit about your experience. You've interviewed successful people. You've interviewed rich people. Tell us some of the things that rich people think when it comes to money and success.
Well, I think they believe that they enjoy the game of money, the game of business. They enjoy putting deals together. They enjoy solving problems and serving needs, and they enjoy the financial rewards that come from that. And they also focus on, they don't get sidetracked. Too many of us get sidetracked. When I interview them, almost all of them watch very little TV. Almost all of them have an exercise routine. A vast majority of them get up very early. And so they focus on creation. And so they're always investing their time, not spending their time.
So I'm actually writing these down as you're saying them because they're pretty powerful here. They're investing their time, not spending it. They're focused on creation. You see many of them having that exercise routine in place. There's that behavior of getting up early and not getting sidetracked from kind of what their main goals and focus are.
Exactly. So when I mentor people in building their businesses or people that want to build a real estate portfolio, I say focus on one type of real estate. Maybe it's 3-2 homes, or if you want multi-housing, focus on one area until you become an expert. Too many people try to throw a lot of spaghetti on the wall, and then they don't understand why it doesn't all, create assets. You need to focus, do your due diligence, find the right mentor. That's the other thing. School teaches us we're supposed to do everything on our own. And in the world of business, it's a team sport. Find those people that can support you through a mastermind. Find a mentor. Find people that can be advisors to you, people who have been successful where you want to go, because that will speed your way there, and you'll get their counsel. Too many people seek advice instead of counsel. Advice can be from your brother-in-law or the elevator, somebody you meet in the elevator. You want counsel. You want to get counsel from someone who has the wisdom about the subject or the area that you want to succeed in.
So I love both of those tips as well, the due diligence piece, the seeking a mentor or counsel, that quality advice from somebody who's an expert in that area or has gone that road before you. The idea of due diligence, I know as a financial advisor, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I have a client who calls in who has maybe started on a franchise or a money-making opportunity, and they're telling me after the fact, hey, Chris, is it okay to take money out of my 401k, or I've already done that, and then I Google the organization, and it comes up on complaints or ripoff.com, and say, if you do the due diligence, which you're suggesting, up front, you can eliminate some of those risk areas by doing that. It's hard to do after the fact. And then the second one, when you said seek counsel, if you have a mentor or somebody who's already been down that road, they may point you in those areas. So being focused on that one thing is huge. Tell us a little bit about you've talked about financial wellness. How do you get to financial wellness, no matter what your current situation is?
One step at a time, and certainly with your business, you understand that. And I tell a lot of people are so stressed out about money, they put their head in the sand. They don't even really know where they are financially. And I say, it's okay. Take the time to figure out where you are. The picture may be bleak, it may be negative, but you will actually feel empowered because you actually know where your beginning point is. My dad used to tell me a map doesn't do you any good if you don't know where you are and where you want to go. Of course, today with GPS, you don't need a map anymore, but you still want a plan. And so you need to figure out where you are financially and then start one step at a time starting to create. Because what happens when we have, we get so depressed, we're in such a hole. I said, when you find yourself in a hole financially, stop digging and start determining what is it you can do one step at a time. And maybe you have multiple credit cards and you have a lot of debt, and age-old advice is, go after the one with the highest interest rate. I go, no, go after the smallest balance first. Pay that one off, because then you're going to feel good. And then take the money that you would use on that and then start looking at the highest interest rate. There's so many options that you can do, but once you actually put the focus on improving your financial life, your results are going to speed up because you're putting the attention where you need to be. Your attention on repairing your financial life instead of focus on spending more money.
So I love the taking one step at a time. And then really taking an assessment of where you are. You're exactly right. And many people, if they feel like they're overwhelmed in their finances, they'll just bury their head in the sand like an ostrich. They're afraid to even kind of take a temperature check and see where we're at. But that's kind of step one. We have to do that to get forward. Tell me a little bit about, and we've got just about 5 more minutes before we hit the tail end of the show here. But one of the things that you've already talked about a little bit is self-limiting beliefs when it comes to money. What can you tell us about overcoming these self-limiting beliefs?
Well, again, this is recognizing where they came from. Most of them are subconscious. Most of them have kind of been engaged from childhood. And because we're not teaching children about money in school, we're not giving the opportunity for people to be more aware of creating financial freedom. And that's something that is one of my biggest issues. My journey is to get financial literacy education in schools across the country. And it's so important. But the money, people have this thing that they can't become wealthy. Money is not important, or they don't want to work so hard. And, when you start a business, you have to work hard. But the whole reason you're working hard is to create that asset that can live on beyond you, and so that in a few years you don't have to work so hard. And so if you look at the long-term benefits of buying, building, and creating assets, it's worth putting in a little extra now. And, if you think about some of the wealthiest people in the world, most of them, dropped out of college. So I still believe college education is important. Stats show it. But focus on what you want to create out of life, because they recognize that problem or that need, and they took the path less traveled. Too many people want to do what everybody else is doing. And I challenge you to say, carve your own path. Take that, instead of asking why or, whatever and following the crowd, say, why not do something different? My personal philosophy has always been, why not? Why not do something that nobody else has done? And that's where you're going to create new opportunities.
I love it. Let's bounce back to the new book, Success and Something Greater. And for listeners who want to find out more, we're going to have a link on the podcast notes as well. But if they want to find out more about Sharon, what's the best website for them to find out about you and the new book?
Well, I'm Sharon Lechter on all social media, from Instagram to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Sharon Lechter, Lechter. My website is SharonLechter.com. And then I also have a private Facebook group called Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. And it really is helping people see a bigger vision, a bigger possibility for themselves. Because my goal in life is helping other people create greater success and to help other people identify how they can place themselves in a position of highest potential, as I said earlier.
I love it. Okay, so when we're off the air, I'm going to go to that Facebook group and join it. I didn't know.
Excellent.
I didn't know it was there, but I definitely that's right on my up my alley. I would love to find out more about it. What else have I not asked you that you want our listeners to take away from the show in the next minute that we have before we close the air here?
Well, I bet a lot of people might be saying, easy for her to say, right? They've listened to my experience. I'm 65, right? And so last year I thought about retiring. I said, no, there's more for me to do. So I decided to refire in my life. And every one of us has had things that stopped us in our tracks, but every one of you listening is still here.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Money Matters Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, visit us on the web at www.moneymatterspodcast.com. Drop us a line on SpeakPipe on the right-hand corner. It will receive any voicemails, questions, thoughts, concerns that you have about the show. In addition to this, we recently launched a Patreon campaign. Click on the Donate Now tab to hit the tip jar and find out what Patreon's campaign is all about.